Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Kaufman and I'd like to welcome you to the first installment of our course Mental Garbage 101. Now when we first met, I introduced the concept of TBOs, thoughts, beliefs, and opinions that we form as a result of the things that happen to us. Now we end up carrying these TBOs way past the time they're useful for us. Like we don't get picked for the basketball team when we're a kid, so we make up that we're no good in sports. Or our heart is broken by the death of a loved one, and we make up a TBO like, don't get close or you're going to get hurt. So how do you get rid of this stuff? That is what the 8 steps are all about. Now there's one criteria we all use to decide what we're going to keep and what we're going to toss, and that's value. You're going to throw something into the garbage can if it's got no value, or you're going to keep it in your house or your office if it does have value. Now you can use value the exact same way with all of your TBOs in your mind. So let's say one jumps in there like, I'm terrible at math. Now take that TBO, run it through a value filter, and ask yourself, is this moving me forward or is this holding me back? And if it has no value, toss it. That's why we call the first step in getting rid of mental trash, find the value and toss the trash. Now, once you start filtering this stream of thoughts, beliefs, and opinions that's running through your head, and you start looking for value, you are going to be shocked at how many of these TBOs are not helpful at all. Those are the ones that you're going to throw out. Now, the next step in getting rid of your mental trash is called keep your can empty. Now, let's say it's trash day. You drag your garbage can to the curb and you head off to work. And when you come home and you look inside the can, what's in there? There's nothing, right? Well, that's exactly what happens when you dump your mental trash. You open up space in your mind. It's what we call an empty zone that's garbage free. Now eventually, as time moves on, you're going to fill that empty zone with brand new TBOs. So where you once had negative, now you have positive. Or once you said, I can't, now you're going to say, I totally can. What you're actually doing is creating an entirely brand new mindset for yourself. But that comes with a warning. Empty zones can be very, very uncomfortable. And the reason is because you've been holding on to these opinions for a very, very long time. And even if they're negative ones, your brain is going to say, hey, there's something missing here. And it's going to reach out and it's going to grab the first familiar thought that it finds and it's going to try and drag it into the empty zone. Now when that happens, you're going to say to yourself, no way. I am done with this garbage. I am never thinking like that again. And the more you guard your emptiness like this, the better your chances are that you're going to bring powerful new TBOs into your life. Now the third step is called create your route. Now let's say you decide that you're going to clean out the junk drawer in the kitchen. So you toss all that stuff that's been in there forever, and now the drawer is nice and empty. And then you throw in a few pens, and you throw in the matches that you use all the time, and a bag of toothpicks, and all sorts of other things, and pretty soon the drawer is full again. Now everything in that drawer has value to you, but guess what? You just created another junk drawer. Now the same thing goes on in your mind. You don't want to fill the emptiness that you created here in step 2 with just any old TBO that makes you feel good. They all need to have something in common because they're going to form this basis for the new life that you're trying to create for yourself. Now garbage trucks, they follow routes every single day because they have to know where they're going and they've got to know what they have to get done. And that's exactly what you're going to do here. You're going to create your own personal route. Now you start by separating your life into segments like career or family or hobby, and then you're going to set goals for each one of these segments. Now these goals need to be about what you really want out of life, I want to run a half marathon, or I want to get that promotion I've been aiming at. Now, once you set these goals, you're going to start bringing in new TBOs that completely align with those goals. So if you threw out some old belief like, I'm totally unqualified to be the department manager, you're going to replace that with, I am the manager. And when any TBO comes in that doesn't line up with, I am the manager, it's garbage, and out it goes. We all have a very important part of our personality called the ego. Now, ego is a creature of habit. It wants life to stay exactly the same day in and day out. So when you start talking about things like dumping mental trash, your ego is going to jump right into the middle of that and say, no, 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 you do not need to do that. So that's why the fourth step of our process is called park your ego. Now, ego is not a bad thing. It was formed when we were little, primarily to protect us. So we're bullied or a teacher embarrasses us in front of the class, and ego helps us develop a thick skin. It's like a great armor, but it was only supposed to be worn for a short period of time. We're meant to take it off after it's done protecting us. But we're not taught to do that. So we leave our ego in charge of our personality. And then if something new shows up, like this concept of emptying trash, the ego jumps in with its sword drawn and says, nope, I'm still here to protect you, even if what's new is actually good for us. Now, the best thing that you can do for your ego is to park it. And to do that, you first do an audit. How often is the ego in my driver's seat? Do I react to situations, or do I keep a level head? Am I defensive, or am I open to criticism? Now, once you figure out how much your ego's in control, stop talking and start listening. Listen to that objective voice in your head that's telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. Because paying attention to that is going to tell you when your ego's taken over. And if you can't spot that yourself, use your team to help you. Listen, people around us always can see things that we can't. Give them permission to say, hey, your ego has taken over here. That, combined with the other steps, is going to help you park that ego and make sure that you're moving in the direction that you want to go. And when the garbage truck hauls away your trash, it's pretty much out of your life forever. You're not going to see that banana peel or that broken mug again. But mental trash, it works a little differently. We may throw out a TBO, and a few days or a few weeks later, it's popped back into our head again, sometimes on its own, or sometimes because we've actually dredged it up on purpose. Now, we do this because for some types of trash, emptying it, it's a process, and it takes more than just one trip to our mental garbage can before it's gone. Now, if this is the case, it's really important not to keep digging that trash up all the time, and you'll never get rid of it. That's why the next step in getting rid of your mental trash is called leave it in the landfill. Now, the smallest thing can trigger your desire to go dig up old trash. It could be a song that reminds you of a relationship, or a smell that reminds you of a good friend that you lost. All of our memories have an emotional charge to them. The higher the charge, the greater the chance that you're going to want to pull that memory out and all the garbage that goes with it out of your own personal landfill. So how do you stop doing that? Well, first, you need to break the emotional bond that you have to that old garbage. So if you have a physical reminder of it, like a picture or a piece of jewelry, it's time to put that away. Now, second, when you've got a TBO that you've tossed and it pops back into your head, don't play with it. Push your mind somewhere else. Go for a run, call a friend, do anything, but don't dwell. Because the faster you put it back in the landfill, the sooner you're going to actually weaken its grip on you. And finally, to really let something go, you need to forgive. Now, I'm not talking about an apology where you look at the other person and you say, once you apologize for me what you did, then I will forgive you. This is completely different. When situations go sideways, most of us replay it in our heads over and over again. I do that all the time. I see every mistake I made. I say, this is what I could have done differently, or I could have chosen different words or taken different actions. And that's where the problem is. How in the world am I possibly going to move beyond a situation if I keep beating myself up about it all the time? So to prevent myself from digging up that old situation, I have to forgive myself for what role I played. I say, hey, I did the best I could. It is what it is. It's over, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Now, when you start forgiving yourself like this, you can start letting it go. And that is a huge step on the way to getting rid of your mental garbage. Now, not all garbage is created equally. Some of it can be really, really nasty. It contaminates us with bad feelings. It severely damages our trust, or it's so noxious that it left us scarred and very deeply hurt. Or some of it's still in your head, and it's taking a bite every day out of your self-confidence. That's why the next step in getting rid of your mental trash is get away from toxic waste. Now, all of us have hazardous waste in our lives, whether it's a toxic relationship with someone at work or toxic thoughts that float around in our heads. Now, in small amounts, toxic waste doesn't pose much of a risk. But when you're in a fight with your spouse, for example, and a TBO like, I don't deserve to be loved, pops into your head, those two things together can create a very toxic reaction. And that is when you need to be very, very careful. Now, when you see toxic waste in your life, the first step is to get away from it. Now, if it was actual hazardous waste, you'd put on your yellow hazmat suit and pull on your thick rubber gloves, and you would step very carefully. So what does your mental hazmat suit look like? Stop the conversation. Set boundaries. Talk to other people. Do whatever you need to do to get some distance between you and the toxic situation. And never stop believing in yourself. Look, you have handled tough situations before. When it comes to toxic waste, always remember you can handle this too. Now, if you look at the way our brains are actually wired, it's really hard to let go of some of your TBOs, especially those that you've had for a long, long time or that you think are really important. We think we're giving up something that has real value, or if we let it go, it means we accept defeat, or we actually have to admit that things are not going to work out the way we want them to. Now, when we're faced with those kinds of choices, our mind does not want to deal with it. So it's going to start hoarding certain beliefs and opinions almost as a way to convince itself that it's right. Now, we all know the downside of hoarding. It takes up valuable space, it blocks the view, it crowds out new ideas. So how do you feel when things pile up around you? The anxiety is enough to drive you crazy. That's why the next step in getting rid of mental trash is to stop hoarding. Now, to do that, you need to first remind yourself you're in control of three things: what you bring into your life, how long you're going to keep it, and when you decide you're going to throw it away. Own that power. Tell yourself that you are in control of your TBOs, not the other way around. Then take a look at the places where you think you're actually hoarding, thoughts or opinions. What's going on? What's behind that? Peel back the layers so you start to understand exactly why you're hoarding. And then finally, find something in your house or your office that you're actually physically hoarding. I don't care if it's magazines or matchbooks, whatever it is, and throw it out. Because when you do it physically and begin to get in the habit of throwing things out there, you begin to get into the habit of throwing away things that you're hoarding in here. Now, the last step in getting rid of your mental trash is called take care of your truck. So let me ask you a question. How effective do you think you are when you're running yourself ragged, driving 100 miles an hour, screeching around the corners with nuts and bolts flying everywhere. Now, I don't care how motivated and energetic you are, jamming the accelerator and hitting the brake is not going to help you achieve your goals in the long run. Eventually, you are going to break down. Now, as you can imagine, garbage companies take very good care of their trucks. That is their bread and butter, literally the way that they make money. And you need to do exactly the same thing with your own personal truck. So do what the garbage guys do. Do some preventative maintenance, like eating well, get some exercise, take a break every once in a while. Get to know your wear spots, those places where you know friction can lead to problems further down the road. And if it's broken, get it fixed. If your ankle keeps hurting, go to the doctor. If an issue is causing you anxiety, call a friend or talk it out with a counselor. If you keep yourself tuned up like this and you keep yourself running well, you can take yourself to some pretty amazing places. And there you have it, the 8 steps to getting rid of mental trash. Now, in the next video, we're going to talk about the key challenges people face when they actually start the process of dumping their mental trash. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next installment of Mental Garbage 101.